Hey, Ken, how's it going?
Good, Chris. How are you?
I am doing really well.
Right on. Right
Yeah,
on.
yeah, yeah.
Uh,
There, that should be good there. Okay. So I don't really have any gripes or anything leading into this.
Me neither.
Oh, wait, no. I do have one kind of gripe. It's not so much a gripe, it's more or less just a clarification. Because like I saw a better shot of the She-Hulk Daredevil costume,
Okay, yeah.
and color-wise, it looks more of a gold thing.
It does look goldy.
But my major issue, it wouldn't be so bad if the helmet wasn't yellow or gold. That's the part that's the worst for me. It's the most jarring and distracting for me. Like even in Daredevil Yellow, which is probably one of the better versions of that costume, mainly because it's Tim Sale. Even in that one, I'm still just like, yeah, but does it have like I mean, I get that it was made from his father's robe, his boxing robe, right?
Yeah.
But like, how much fucking yellow was on that robe? Last I checked, it was a red robe with yellow trim.
Not
How
enough
is
to
he able to
cover an
get this
entire
much
body.
yellow from this trim? And the other thing is, how does a blind guy make this suit?
That was always the weirdest one for me.
Like,
And why would he care what the colors are? He's blind.
yeah, like, and also realistically speaking, he's blind, so how would he know?
Yeah.
Like, I know, like in the comic books, and I think even in maybe in the movie too, they might have no, most in the comic books. Oh, even in the movie, they kind of hint that he pretty much has to rely on like trusting people to give him the right fare back and stuff like that. So it's like, he sewn it by hand for one with fabric that he got from his dad's robe or whatever. But when he went to the red costume, did he just go to a fabric shop and go, I need a whole bunch of red leotard material? Or did he commission somebody to make it? And in which case, why did he put D's on the chest? Ever since the Netflix show, that'll never not bother me. I'll never get to a point where I'll go, makes sense that he has two D's on his chest to tell everybody that he's Daredevil.
Yeah. Absolutely.
100% it makes sense. Like,
why aren't the D's in Braille?
Yeah, why
How
aren't
does he
they
knock
in
a guy
Braille?
down and he's like, rub my chest. You feel that?
Yeah.
That's Braille.
And then they go, I don't know what that it stands for D and D. So Daredevil.
Oh.
But
damn.
that's not so much a gripe, but more of an observation, really. Yeah. Hey there, invincible, flying in the sky so fancy free. Oh shit, your dad just kicked your ass. Horribly. Brutally.
Oh. Oof.
Well, what a nice segue, because today we're talking about the 30-year anniversary of Image Comics.
Yeah, excited.
I'm super pumped too. Like when you made the suggestion to do this, immediately I was like, "Oh, this is awesome!" Because it gives us a chance to do basically the same thing that we always do: talk, but about not just comic books, but like an actual company and the impact and everything.
We saw the whole thing. We lived it.
Yeah. It was incredible.
It was huge in a small town, so I can't imagine what it was like in the big cities.
It was absolutely huge in a small town of Thunder Bay, Ontario. Like that's, like I remember the buzz because, like, we were Jim Lee fans. I was a big fan of Jim Lee.
Big fan.
Also, huge fan of Erik Larsen. Like to this day, even though the comic book is no longer for me, I still love his work. I still love his art style. I'm slowly building up my Savage Dragon Pinterest board. It's coming along nicely.
Nice.
But I've always been a huge fan of his art, and same with Jim Lee. I was always a huge fan of Jim Lee's art.
Yeah. Yeah, you were big on Larsen, and I was bigger on McFarlane.
Yeah, so I was not the hugest McFarlane fan, and I'm still not. Like, I would say, like, in terms of the two like iconic Spawn artists, Greg Capullo all the way.
Yeah.
And even though Greg Capullo was definitely like a Todd McFarlane ripoff artist in the beginning,
at first, absolutely,
you know, but like, and I'm not going to knock him for that because Image had a lot of that. Like, and we'll touch upon, and of course, there's reasons why, and we'll touch upon that when we get to it. But I just remember, like Wizard, and like hearing about that, and just being blown away that like a fucking handful of these like on fire artists, like these were guys that were burning up Marvel and DC charts just by drawing, and of course, so when you hear about that, like they left to do their own creator own stuff, it's like, holy shit.
It was crazy, right? Man.
And
it was basically everybody that did X-Men and Spider-Man gone.
Exactly. Like just like that. And like, and with the exception of Jim Valentino, he's the only one that always, even to this day, I go, he's the one that stuck out because he made his name on Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah.
But it's not like that book was like killing it. Like he got on the art and everyone was like, are you fucking kidding me? Is nobody reading this book? No. And he's probably got the most dated style out of all of them, but still fucking incredible. Just absolutely incredible. It's nuts too how they got about doing it. I actually have some bullet points to touch upon.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm ready for this. I've been thinking, I got no notes, but I've been thinking about it like crazy. I watched the Image Revolution last week, which was like a documentary.
You should have told me. I would have watched it.
It was on Tubi. I found it on Tubi.
Oh,
and I've never seen it.
I would have downloaded to watch that. Yeah. And then I would have deleted it, but whatever.
But it was really cool. It's 10 years ago, but it's like the whole creation aspect of it was still there.
Well, and that's some of the bullet points that I started off with. I thought it was because it's always been kind of interesting because for us, it was just a new comic imprint with artists that we were like huge fans of. Because like Marc Silvestri is another one that I was always a huge fan of.
Oh, yeah.
Always a huge fan of.
Like
his Wolverine stuff was so great.
Liefeld was talking. He said, when we got Silvestri, that was it. Like he said he could draw circles around all of us.
That's crazy. That's absolutely crazy. But yeah, it's like Whilce Portacio was another one. Like just, whoa, where the fuck do these guys come from, right? But then for them to move on to their own creator own stuff, like for me, I was like, holy fuck, like, we're getting in on the ground floor. This isn't like issue 350 of Amazing Spider-Man that you bought because Erik Larsen did the cover for it, right?
Yeah.
This is number 1. And like this is a brand new fucking character from a brand new fucking company. And we were like, what? God, we were 10 years old. We were at that prime
we were
age,
10 years old. Yeah.
Prime age for it. And some of this stuff was like way ahead of their time. And I'll touch upon that too. But like, so 92, Rob Liefeld, Erik Larsen, Jim Lee, Todd McFarlane, Whilce Portacio, Marc Silvestri, Jim Valentino. Or actually before that, in the early 90s, I love this. They go to Malibu Comics. They talk to the editor, and they're basically just like, this is fucking bullshit. Like, we get paid nothing. We're freelance. We have no job security, no nothing. And everything we do is owned by the companies. Yeah. What the fuck, right? And Malibu was one of those companies that wasn't independent, but I think it was like, it was through Marvel some way. If I remember correctly. I can't remember exactly.
Vaguely remember Malibu.
Well, the only reason I remember Malibu for 2 reasons. One was Prime.
Yeah.
And the greatest superhero of all time ever, no one will ever top him, Nightman.
Nightman, yes.
Yeah. And Prime I only remember just because of the visual. Because it was just a cool looking costume.
Yeah,
but the concept, cool. I remember.
Prime was
the costume. Looking. The concept was garbage, though.
Yeah. Well,
it's basically just
a
Shazam.
lot of things in the 90s were garbage, but looked cool.
Yeah, true. But I love that. And then I also love how they also then went, like, a couple of them met with Marvel and DC and was basically just like, guys, you got to change what you're fucking doing because it's not going to work.
Yeah.
Eventually, this freelance bullshit is not going to happen. And then what happens? People are getting guaranteed contracts.
Yep. Yeah.
So that I thought was really, really, really super cool. I mean, obviously, there's always been reports that like they were pricks about it. I don't think they were. I think they were like, look, this is kind of where we're at.
I mean, I think a lot of the maybe like Liefeld was the youngest of the group, so I think he was a little over his head there and probably a little bit of a prick, like
which is possible.
If you're gonna be big like Liefeld at that age, you're gonna have an ego, 100%.
Yeah, because like I mean, fuck, like he was like 20, 21.
Yeah, super young.
No, he was 19. He was 19 when he started.
Yeah,
he was 19 when he started, and he was one of those like almost instantly he turned like New Mutants around just by getting on the art.
Yeah,
and then he and Nicieza, who was one of my favorite writers, actually. Now that I think about it, like consistently solid writer for comics. They went from New Mutants to X-Force, and then X-Force was like box office. Like
X-Force was the #1 selling comic of all time, and then right after that, Spider-Man #1 was the #1 selling comic of all time,
and that was
then
drawn by Todd
#1
McFarlane.
blew it all away. Like
then,
Jim Lee did
X-Men with Jim Lee, fucking destroyed that. And that was probably the best part too, is because so we're reading those comic books. I was never an X-Force guy, but I knew all about it. I knew all about it.
Me too.
You couldn't escape it. But then I read the Todd McFarlane Spider-Man because you had to. Torment, because even though I'm not the hugest fan of his art, his Lizard was downright creepy.
Horrifying.
And his Spider-Man was fucking weird. Like, it was just a weird, like, it kind of reminds me now of Kelly Jones's Batman. Do you remember that?
Yes. Yeah, with like the
giant ears and then like weird abstract-y type of art, but like that was kind of so like I can appreciate Todd McFarlane art, not even though I'm not like the hugest fan. I appreciate it for what it is. But then to follow that with X-Men, you're just like, fuck, like it's just so cool to be a kid reading comic books at this time. Right. And then these guys that are just killing it, that are absolutely killing it, go over to Image. They create Image, Yeah. I also Dale Keown on Hulk, the Incredible Hulk, towards the end of like that was his last run in Marvel, and it was just like, where the fuck did this guy come from?
Sam Keith.
They came later, but even still, Sam Keith.
Well, I mean, Keown and Keith came out, I think, a year after. Like they had
were the initial.
Blood. It was Youngblood, Spawn, Savage Dragon, Shadowhawks, Cyberforce, and then all those other guys started coming by.
That's right. Yeah, exactly. But like, Sam Keith was another one too, where you're just like, what the fuck? But Sam Keith is also one of those ones where it's like, you either like his art or you don't.
Yeah.
And I love Sam Keith. It's right either way. Like it's regardless how you feel. It's me too.
Man, the way he draws Wolverine, like holy fuck.
Yeah. I remember the first time I saw that, I was just like, holy shit. But I have to say, like, because we talked about pre-Camcast, heavy metal, I think reading heavy metal when we did helped to get us to appreciate artists like Sam Keith. Yes. Because there was nothing conventional about heavy metal, and you never knew what you were going to get. You might get like a traditional art style, or you might get like Mobius art style, or you might just get fucking bonkers off the wall art style, like something like Sam Keith. So, like, fuck. And plus, we were young, we were sponges.
And you know what else? It was really the Marvel Masterpiece cards really got me to appreciate different types of art too. Because the first series was all Joe Jusko, and then they had like the Hildebrands, but then later on they had like Nelson and Sienkiewicz.
Yeah, that's right. They went nuts with it.
Who else was in there?
I forgot about
it
the
was a
Brothers
huge list, but
Hildebrand.
it was all painters, but it was all different styles of paint. I remember seeing like the first Sienkiewicz card. I think it was Hulk or Wolverine.
I was just gonna say,
and I looked at that card and I was like, this is so fucking. I don't know if I like this. But
yeah.
now Sienkiewicz is hands down my favorite artist. Like
That's what I love. I love it when you're like, I don't know how I feel about this.
Yeah.
And then you look at it and then you get a feel for it. And then it's like it's either you like it or you don't.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
The big thing for me, like I remember this too, like when they talk about, because like it's funny, comics is so weird because like they went through a period where they acknowledged the creators, right?
Yeah.
But like a lot of these creators had to fight for that. Like the Schusters, Schuster and what's his face? Simon.
Simon.
You know, they had to fight for that designation. Bob Kane, on the flip side, fought to make sure Bill Finger never got any recognition.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Like tooth and nail to the point where you don't, it's really only like hardcores that will bring up Bill Finger, you know?
Yeah.
Which is weird because if you've ever seen the original Batman drawing by Bob Kane, there's no fucking way that thing would last 80 fucking years.
Not
like,
a chance. Not
red,
a chance.
all red, bat wings, wand, no cowl. Like, what fucking bat were you looking at?
Yeah.
Bill Finger comes in and goes, nah, let's make the wings a cape, but we'll scallop it so it looks like wings. We'll give him a full cowl with ears to kind of lean into that bat motif.
Yep.
We'll give him gloves. Sure, they're purple, but whatever.
Whatever.
And we'll give him a gun because everyone has guns at that point in time. But still, but like, well, fuck, like Larsen created Cardiac.
Yes.
And Solo. Now, I can't remember if it's a co-creation, like in the sense that, because I think it was David Michelini that was doing the writing at that point. I think for both.
Probably.
But like the character, like visually, that's all Larsen. And if you didn't know that he created those characters, you wouldn't know.
Yeah.
Because they were created for Marvel, so there you go.
And I mean, like, the artists were the stars then, you know? How many writers from the 80s and 90s could you actually remember compared artists?
Chris Claremont, Frank Miller.
The big ones.
Hold on, I'm not done. Well, Fabian Nicieza, I mentioned him already. Scott LaBelle, even though I'm not a huge fan of his, like anything he did in DC New 52, I loved his writing back then.
Yep.
I mentioned David Michelini, but I'm just being a dick at this point.
But
what
like,
your point was to echo
well,
your point though, they weren't sitting there going like, "Oh my God, did you read the latest X-Men comic book written by Chris Claremont?" No, they were going, "Did you see this? Did you see this, Jim Lee? Look at this shit."
Now, compared to the comics in the 2000s, we were in high school. We were talking about Bendis and Millar and Morrison, and you know,
exactly.
And it was all the writers. It was all the writers then. The 90s, the 90s, it was the artists. And
oh yeah,
and I mean, it was like, these guys. I mean, holy shit,
holy fuck! Like,
I mean, okay, so first off, like, we kind of knew things were happening. We, you know, it was a fairly good group of comic fans in our class in school.
Oh yeah,
we always passed comics around. That's where I saw Spider-Man #1 for the first time.
Yeah, exactly. I think it was Craig who had that.
Yeah. And then I finally got Spider-Man #1 and I traded it for an Easter bunny.
Hilarious.
I'll always be disappointed in myself for that.
That is absolutely hilarious.
White chocolate too. Not even real chocolate.
Well, I'm a big fan of white chocolate, but still.
I am. But Spider-Man #1, it was the gold edition too.
Oh, you are dumb. You are dumb. Yeah, no, so, like well, Craig, Mark Tutela.
Yep.
Jake Treckelli.
Yeah, Jason.
Yeah, Jason Halverson.
Yep.
I don't know, I don't think Ryan Hawkins was too much into comic books though.
No.
And actually, Dick Turkelly wasn't too much in comic books either.
No, he loved cartoons and stuff, but not so much comic books.
Yeah. It was primarily you, me, Craig, and Halverson, like Jason Halverson.
Yeah.
We were the big.
Halverson was huge into it. Yeah.
We were big comic book guys. He was also a really good artist too. I remember.
He's a really good artist. If you would have kept going, he probably could have been working that Image by now. But
yeah, no kidding.
I mean, he was damn good back then.
Who knows what any of them are doing now these days?
Yeah.
But
I remember my dad and I back then, like in early 90s, they used to have these comic book trade shows that came to Thunder Bay and they were at the Landmark Inn.
Yes.
You remember that?
Yes, I do.
So I remember my dad and I going to one and we were walking around. We went to this one booth and this guy had like posters of Young Blood all over his frickin' cabin and stuff. And we walked up and we're looking at it and he goes, "You guys seen this? This is Young Blood #1. This is Image Comics. This is the future." And my dad was looking at that and he's looking at me and he's just like, "I'll take one." And that was the first time in my lifetime I ever watched my dad buy a comic for himself. Huh. And I was just like, this feels big. This, as a kid, I was like, this feels big.
Like, and when you said it right at the beginning, like we lived it. Like we were on the ground floor.
Yeah.
I remember when those guys left Marvel and I remember just being like, whoa. And then immediately pivot to, because of Wizard, we knew it was happening, but it was still crazy to think like one artist goes, like no big deal, right?
Yeah.
Especially now, like when you look back at it, you realize like a lot of those guys worked for DC, then worked for Marvel, and just kind of bounced back. Like even Jim Lee, like I watched an interview, I think it was Fat Man on Batman, and Jim Lee was a guest, and he was saying like, yeah, he started in DC, then he moved over to Marvel, and then Marvel was kind of where he went nuts until he founded Image.
Yeah.
And then went from there.
I mean, back then, Marvel and DC were across the road from each other in New York.
Yeah,
DC
exactly.
wasn't in California. So, I mean, it was kind of easy for those guys back then.
Yeah, exactly. But like, oh, fuck.
But yeah, so like Young Blood and then going to Lepinen's, the corner store. I remember buying Spawn off the newsstand.
Which is crazy to think that that they did that. Right?
Yeah.
Like they went newsstand. You know?
They went newsstand. I bought Spawn off the newsstand. The first volume of Savage Dragon #1 off the newsstand.
For me, it was Comic Shop, but I was also in town.
Were you in town by then? By the time Dragon came out? The ongoing, but I think the original mini you were still out in the country.
Yeah, either that or I had just moved. But no. I had just moved. Because I remember it was that summer, and I got the first issue of Savage Dragon.
Yeah,
and I was just like, "Holy fuck!" Like literally, like I can't believe I got it. Like I was so pumped.
The fucking
and then
cover.
I was reading it.
Oh man, with the side profile and the blood coming down the head and
coming out like this, like two guns, full on flex. Like for that summer, I pretended to be Savage Dragon, like in my house in my backyard. And I remember I had a secondhand Batwing toy. Remember with the gun?
Yep.
Okay, because it could fire projectiles, but it was secondhand, so I didn't have the wings. Oh no, that's not true. I had one wing. For some reason, we had one wing. But anyway, so I used that as one of the guns, and I had like this shirt cut off the sleeves so that I could like be ripped like Savage Dragon. And I was like, even just the things he was doing, like Savage Dragon is like a Hulk character, and he had flipping around and jumping like Spider-Man, and he became a cop for fuck's sakes. Like, how many superhero comics do you read where the guy's a cop?
The whole Savage Dragon story from beginning to current is just crazy. Like,
yeah.
The way it went,
it's insane. It's absolutely insane.
Never would have seen that coming. And the fact that Larsen is still going strong monthly, wow, man, wow.
Exactly. I think he's,
whether you like Dragon or not. Yeah, I mean, fuck. Yeah, like kudos to Spawn. Like Spawn is the longest running indie comic, but McFarlane had a team. Larsen's going solo still. You know, like
and he's he draws and he inks his own work.
Yeah.
Because the way he is, he's like, you can't ink my shit.
Does he letter too? Is he his own letterer?
I think he might do the lettering too. It's been a while since I looked at the inside of the cover. But of course, like the longer the book went, he ended up taking on more jobs for the book, right? But he's also, I think he was CFO for a while there too.
Yeah.
But yeah, like well, Spawn blew me away. Like, first of all, the art is incredible. Like, I was never a huge fan of McFarlane on Spider-Man, but Spawn was like, holy shit.
Oh man.
That mix of Batman and Spider-Man, but then the heaven and hell aspects, and then this stuff that like they were touching on stuff that you didn't see in comic books. You didn't see child molesters getting killed in comic books. No. You didn't even hear about child molesters, or if you did, it was very rare. And I don't know that they would call them child molesters per se. Yeah. They would probably just say they kidnapped children. You know?
Yeah.
But like the adult nature of the books set them apart immediately. Like, you know, the go-to is always the graphic violence, which of course, yeah, there was. I mean, fuck, Shadowhawk was breaking people's backs.
Oh, Shadowhawk was awesome.
Shadowhawk was, but that was gonna lead into that one too. But so like, so I mentioned like you had Savage Dragon. He was a cop, so they looked at a superhero book from a different perspective because he also had to fill out paperwork and shit, right? Yep. He couldn't just kill everybody because he was a cop, right? Mm-hmm. You had Spawn, which literally dealt with heaven and hell. Yep. And the forces of evil trying to fight the forces of good. And Spawn is like, and the weird part that it took me a while to wrap my head around was that Spawn is actually working for the devil.
Yeah.
Right? So then you think like every time he's killed a bad guy, he thinks he's doing good.
He's growing an army.
He's helping create that army. I was like, this is bonkers. This is absolutely bonkers. You know? But then Young Blood, you mentioned Young Blood, but Young Blood was the one that I was saying, like, that one was ahead of its time because, yeah, it was a quote unquote superhero team that's been done a million times over since the Avengers and Justice League, or Justice Society, I should say. But this time, these guys, they had sponsorships, they had merchandise deals, they had to be wary about what they did on camera. You know, like these were the boys before the boys, or even before the Ultimates.
Yep.
You know, and like I remember distinctly, like I think his name was it Psyops? But by the end of the first issue, they committed the cardinal sin of comic books. They killed Hassan Hussein. And the team was pissed because he did it on camera. Like they saw him do it, and he wasn't supposed to do it. Like he wasn't supposed to kill him, and he just did it. Yeah. I think he was off the team after that, but it was still just like, holy shit. And also the cardinal sin is you don't have superheroes touching anything in the modern world. So for them to have him kill Hassan Hussein, that's a big no-no because, I mean, it slap in the face to the soldiers that are fighting that war. That are like, oh, it's cool that you wrote the little comic book there where your little hero saved the day. That's cool. I'm in a trench and my buddy's head is caved in. But good thing you did that comic book. That's cool. That's cool. Yeah. Right? But anyway, like even just that, like having sponsors and you know, merchandise deals. Like even like at one point, they actually in comic book said Bedrock had to change his name to Badrock because Bedrock was copyrighted to the Flintstones or to Hanna-Barbera. I was like, this is awesome that they referenced that. And kudos for them to get me reading anything that Rob Liefeld is drawing.
Right? Yeah.
They always say like he's the quintessential 90s artist. He is the quintessential 90s artist.
Oh yeah.
Nobody ever can come close to touching Liefeld as the quintessential 90s artist.
To this day.
Yeah. But my favorite part about that story though is, or this whole thing was that, so Young Blood came out, smashed success. Like they were doing like Young Blood 1, WildCats, Spawn, and even Savage Dragon, they all did numbers that Marvel and DC had never seen before.
Yeah.
Ever. Like, even when they were working with Marvel and DC, they were like, what the fuck just happened here?
I know. Yeah.
How quickly Image became respected as the third option between the two. Because it was always like, depending on who you were, you would say Marvel's better, or you'd say DC's better. Or if you'd look at numbers, like in terms of money, you would say, well, Marvel is here, but DC's here, right?
Yeah.
And then
all
you wouldn't
of a
say
sudden,
Dark Horse. You wouldn't say Dark Horse is next.
No, I mean, Dark Horse had a lot of good books, but they were nowhere near sales-wise.
Valiant's another one. You wouldn't say they were clearly the third. Image immediately fucking stepped over all of them.
Yeah.
And just went, we're here.
With one book, Youngblood came out and outsold everything.
Annihilated everything.
Spawn came out, towered over Youngblood. Like,
just fucking, it was like a massacre. And like, as a fan, I wish that we could live through something like that again, because as a fan, to watch that in real time was so cool. Like, to read Wizard and it's like #1 book, Youngblood. Next month, #1 book, Spawn. #2 book, Youngblood.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not going to say like Savage Dragon sold as well as those guys, but that was also huge numbers. Shadowhawk, huge numbers. I'll never forget that cover. I was actually tempted to go and dig for it, but I honestly, I don't even know if I still have it. Like, if it might have been one of those ones that accidentally got thrown away or whatever.
Yeah.
But I just remember, because I bought that one too. That was one of the first Image books I bought. It was Savage Dragon #1 of the miniseries.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was Shadowhawk. And the only reason why I bought it, 2 reasons actually. One was Image.
Yeah.
2 was it was all black and it was embossed, right? So the face was like lifted up and all the coloring was red for the eyes.
Yeah.
And then that silver fucking Wolverine helmet that he had, and the logo Shadowhawk. And I was just like, all right. I read it. And again, I've never been the hugest Valentino fan, but I was like, this is awesome. We had a black hero who had AIDS, and they were actually dealing with, like, if I remember correctly, they talked about crack, like drug use. And it was probably the most brutal killing or maiming of a bad guy I've ever seen in my entire life, where he had this one piece of armor here. He would jam that into your back, break it, and then that's it. And on top of that, he had AIDS and he was a man, and they didn't go with the easy gay trope.
Yeah.
Like, it's fucking unreal. It was absolutely unreal.
Everything they were doing was ahead of its time. Like, and then right after that, the other guys started coming out. I bought Pit off the newsstand. I remember.
Well, actually, hold on. Before we do that, we also got to talk about WildCats, because WildCats was fucking a league of its own.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, like, and especially for Jim Lee fans. Like, yes, I will acknowledge Youngblood was absolutely ahead of its time. And a lot of the shit that they did in 92, in the early 90s, that you saw later on in the 2000s with the Ultimate line, and then now with the boys, and pretty much any superhero that is created now is some sort of a marketing thing. That happened because of them, because of Youngblood. But WildCats, that for me was another one where it was just like, holy fucking shit. You had Drifter, which probably one of the coolest designs, even to this day.
Yep.
You know, full-on face mask, but it's literally a babushka with that weird face design.
Yep.
Rolled up trench coat with giant gloves. Like, none of it makes sense, but it looked awesome. Zealot. Zealot was cool looking too. Fuck, who else? Void. Let's see if I remember. Spartan. Marlowe.
Yep.
He was the benefactor.
Maul,
that's the one I was trying to think of. Voodoo was
Maul
the other
was
one.
Fucking huge. I remember getting the Maul action figure.
Exactly.
He was ginormous. I was like, oh my god, he's so big.
So huge. But even the concept of Daemonites versus the Carabins, and it was all just this long-standing fight on Earth. I loved that. They had their own studios, and you had the choice of acknowledging the entire Image universe or just in your pocket, you know? Like, so many things.
Shadowline is
well, actually, I have it here. So
there's Valentino? Okay.
There's a couple of things that I thought were really, really cool. First and foremost, I thought that while Claremont didn't join them, he did support them heavily.
Oh, yeah.
He supported them big time. They only had 2 key provisions in their charter, and one was that Image would not own any creator's work. The creator would own it. Image would only own they would own no intellectual property except for the company trademark.
Yeah.
That was it. And then the other one was that no Image partner could interfere creatively or financially with any other partner's work. And then because of that, they founded their own studios. So, in no particular order, Todd McFarlane Productions, obviously Todd McFarlane.
Yeah, obviously.
So that encompasses Spawn and all the Spawn adjacent titles, which you think about it, you don't really realize, but there was fucking so many.
There's a ton. There's even
I think there was like
now.
at one point there was 5 books a month.
Yeah, it's back to.
I use a month loosely because the biggest knock for Image was how quickly those books would come out.
Yeah.
Which by quickly I mean almost never. The next one was Aegis, later Wildstorm by Jim Lee.
Mm-hmm.
Highbrow Entertainment was Erik Larsen's Corner of the World. You know why it's called Highbrow?
Why?
Take a look at his face. He's got a really high forehead. That's literally it.
Is that it?
he thought it was funny because, of course, highbrow is like, it's very highbrow, right?
Yes.
Or you would say lowbrow is just beneath you, right? It's his forehead. It's just like me, very highbrow. Shadowline, you're right. Shadowline was Jim Valentino.
Yep.
In his corner. Top Cow was Marc Silvestri.
Mm-hmm.
Very super 90s here. Extreme Studios.
Yeah.
Later became Awesome Comics. That was Rob Liefeld. And then, so those were the big ones that came out. And then, like you said, later on that year, it was Dale Keown showed up with Pitt, which, fuck, like Dale Keown.
I'll never forget that first issue cover with Pitt on the cover, and it says "First Ripping Issue."
Oh my god! Like, man, like his art was so crazy. He's one of those ones where, like, we've talked about him recently, where I'm like, what does he do now? And he does largely nothing.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, whatever, fine. It is what it is. Life is fun. And then, of course, Sam Keith with Max came out, which I never got in at the time. Then when the Max cartoon came out, that was it. Fuck it, I was in.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, these different studios. Awesome. These different studios pulled out.
Sorry?
These different studios introduced a lot of great artists and creators too, though.
Well, yeah, Extreme Studios. Image was always the team book. Eventually, it became like the team book company because, like, at one point there was Youngblood. Then I remember Brigade because I bought an issue of Brigade and I thought that looked really cool. Oh yeah, that's right. Cyberforce. I forgot about Cyberforce.
That was Silvestri. Yep.
That was Silvestri. That looked awesome. I never got into Cyberforce. I think I read one book, but it was like issue 3, so I had no idea what was going on. Right.
Right.
But if I remember correctly, Cyberforce dealt with werewolves and vampires the Cyberforce was the team to take them down.
Yeah.
But really, all you need to know, it's Marc Silvestri and art, and fucking incredible. But even I remember Hell Shock with Jay Lee.
Yeah,
and Jay Lee like literally did like Namor the Submariner, and then moved over there, and it was just like, holy shit. Yeah. I remember reading a couple of issues of X-Men with Whilce Portacio. He was on Uncanny. That's right. He was on Uncanny.
What did Whilce actually create when he came over to Image? What was his comic book?
Was it Wetworks?
Wetworks. I forgot about Wetworks. Another team book. Yeah.
Oh yeah, well, of course.
It probably was, right?
I'm for some reason, and I'm thinking Wetworks. It was wet with 2 T's.
I'm gonna look it up real quick. Let's see.
Yeah, no, I want you to.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. Whilce Portacio.
it was,
Yeah, so Wetworks.
Let me see the cover actually, because I can't even. I'm trying to picture it, and I think I can, but I'm not quite sure.
Yeah,
it's crazy that I remembered that. Because he was always one of those guys that I liked his style, but I almost never read any of his stuff, like any of the books that he'd done.
Yeah, I don't know if you'll be able to really pick this up.
No, I can't, but I'll look at it later.
Yeah.
That's
I looked at as soon as I looked at it, I went, oh man, I remember that book now. I never read that book though. I don't know why.
No, me neither.
Of all the creators,
there's also money though. It's not like we were rich, right?
No, we weren't rich. And I mean, I was still huge into Wolverine and X-Men and everything too. So,
well, and that's the other part too, right? Like, I mean, I was always like, I was in with Savage Dragon like right up until, like I said, right up until recently. Within the last couple of years, I just
when did you quit? Around the 200 mark, or?
Well, no. So I got every issue, like 1, 2, 3, and then from number 1 to issue 50. And then I stopped because I just couldn't afford it. So I stopped buying comics in general, period, at issue 50.
Yeah.
And then I came back at around, it was probably, I want to say issue 75.
Okay, so a couple years off. Or well,
no, maybe not. Maybe
probably
not.
5 years.
I'll have to double check. Actually, no. Larsen was pretty good. He was
Larsen was pretty good at staying monthly. Later on, he became a little sporadic, and he's like, "Yeah, I realize I need to get better." It was
when he was the top at the Image. He was the head guy at Image, and he was doing this, and he was also writing for DC and Marvel at the time.
Yeah, he was.
So at that point,
busy.
He was like, "Okay, I gotta fucking stop." Or it might have been just DC. I don't know that he went back to Marvel.
No, he was at Marvel. I remember he did a run on Wolverine.
Yes, that's right.
Yep.
Because he had an Aquaman run in DC, and then that's right, he had a Wolverine run. That's right. Anyway, yeah, I think it was 75. Issue 75 might even been later. Might even have been issue 100, actually, now that I think about it.
Yeah.
And then 100 to about, I want to say 250.
Yeah, you were on it for a long streak.
Yeah, I was on it for even like after spoilers, when Dragon switched over to Malcolm, and Malcolm was the Savage Dragon. I was on for quite a bit, and then I just stopped buying comics in general. Well, yeah, because that was around the time, like, we're saving for the wedding and the house and shit like that. So I stopped, and then I picked it up. I think maybe about a year ago. I started looking through that Real Comics or whatever, and I was reading it for a bit, and then after a while, I was like, "Oh yeah, I could just stop reading this. I don't have to continue if I don't like it." Just because you liked it in the past doesn't mean you have to like force feed yourself if you don't like it. And it's not like, I don't want to say like the writing is worse or the art is worse or anything like that. It's just not for me now. Simple as that. So
yep.
I do like that in that in the group chat when you were saying like, I got to start getting that mindset going. It gets easier. It's hard. Like at first,
I'm okay with some stuff, but like you're way better.
And that's
you're way better at it.
So, yeah, but it depends on what it is, though. Like,
yeah,
it would be really like with Daredevil, for instance. With Daredevil, my only real issue is I don't want him to be like Thor, like that level of jokey.
Yeah,
is like. And I'm sure Love and Thunder is good. I watch it when it comes out on Disney Plus. I'm sure it's amazing. But like, it's the same from Ragnarok. So it's like, if you liked Ragnarok, of course you're gonna like this.
Yeah.
It's just more of the same. That's my only concern. But my concern is also tempered by the fact that Charlie Cox is now like a really huge Daredevil fan. So, and it's not like I don't want any jokes. I mean, there was some fucking funny shit in the Netflix show and in Defenders.
Yep.
And Matt's a charming, charismatic guy, so it's not like can't all be gloom and doom.
Right.
But it's what I'm getting at though is when it's like stuff that you're really beholden to, it's really hard to say, well, it's might not be for me.
Yeah.
I think the Batman is where I was starting to kind of prepare for that. That's how I was starting to prepare for that because it started to sound like the Batman wasn't going to be for me. And also, I just hate fucking internet trolls that are like, I don't like it. So cancel
it. Petition.
Yeah. Cancel it. Don't show it to anybody. I don't give a fuck if the vast majority of people like it. I don't. And therefore, like Karen's like, if I don't like it, nobody can.
Yeah.
And it's like, I can't stand gatekeeping. And I realized I'm a reformed gatekeeper because I did that a lot.
Mm-hmm.
When you look back and you go like, have you ever sat there and said to somebody when they go, oh yeah, I love all those Marvel movies, and do you go, oh, did you read the comic books? And they say no, and you go, not really a fan then. You ever do that one?
I fucking hate that.
But you ever do it?
I've never done it.
I caught myself actually.
I have never done that to anybody.
When I was at the Power Center, I haven't done it to anybody, but I almost did. And that's kind of when I checked myself because it was like one of the Kaylee Walsh. She started working at Power Center, found out I was into superheroes and stuff like that, right? Mm-hmm. And she's like, "Oh, I love all those superhero movies." And in my head, I was just like, "Oh," and then I kind of went, "Yeah, but are you just a movie fan?" And in that moment, I went, "Hold on, what does it matter?" Like, I'm super glad that I wasn't like, "But did you read 30 years of comic books?"
But
are you familiar with every single thing that happened in the books? Mm-hmm. Or did you just watch the movies and go, these are nice? Like you need to watch every single thing of every single thing to love every single thing. It's like, get the fuck out of here.
I think the closest I've come, and I just not coming to that, but like just someone telling me they love the movies, and then I'll say, you ever want to check out the comic books? And if they say yes, I give them recommendations of great runs to read.
So, that's awesome. That's awesome.
That's about it.
I gatekeeped music though. I for 100% gatekeeped music when I was in high school.
I remember you.
I was a gatekeeper for music big time.
Yeah.
Like if you said you like punk and you didn't pass my punk test, well, you didn't really listen to punk.
Yeah.
Which is hilarious coming from a guy whose first punk band that he ever listened to was Green Day. Which, on the punk spectrum of things, not the most punk. But, yeah. But getting back to Image, the other part I think, what I like though, like getting back to that is because we got in the ground floor, but you and I were very similar in the sense that like when you got onto Invincible, that's when you were like, it was like you found that character that spoke to you on some level, and then you were like, I want to see what happens to this character.
Mm-hmm.
And the cool part was, for me anyway, I don't know if it was for you, but what I got a kick out of, well, actually not a kick out of, what I appreciated was that I knew that it was going to be Erik Larsen writing this book every single month.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like 12 issues in, and they capped off that 12-issue run, and they were like, this was a great story. And then they go, okay, so issue 13, we've got new writer, new artist, brand new story. And you're just like, oh, but the last run was really good. Why wouldn't we just, you know what I mean?
Keep going. Yeah.
And then of course, it's like one continuous story too. That was the other part, and that's another reason why, like, because I've started. Actually, I've taken a break, but I started rereading Invincible, and I forgot, like, yeah, there's story arcs,
Yeah.
but it's still one
Overarching
giant
story. Yeah.
So then, like, even with Dragon, it was one giant story, and then it kind of ended. Dragon's story led into Malcolm. If I remember correctly, they've officially ended Dragon's story now. As of now, like, that's his story's over. But yeah, like, just that was really cool. Like, even like when I left Savage Dragon for a couple of years,
Yeah.
I came back knowing it was going to be Erik Larsen.
Yeah. Yeah,
exactly. Like, obviously, it's not necessarily a fair comparison, because, like, Todd McFarlane, once he got huge doing everything else related to comic books, he stopped writing it, he stopped drawing it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Liefeld's schedule worked out perfectly for him because he could put out a book once a year.
Mm-hmm.
That's not even really a joke. Jim Lee was the same way too. Like, there was delays on almost every single Image book. There was delays.
Yeah.
Shadowhawk, I think, was the only Shadowhawk, Savage Dragon.
Shadowhawk had the it was a group of miniseries though, and that saved.
That's right. It wasn't
that
a month.
saved it.
That's right. That's right. That's right. That's right. Because I had Shadowhawk 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah.
No, that's not true. I had 1. I might have had 3. For some reason, I didn't get 2. But then I just, I stopped buying.
Did you see that Valentino released the last Shadowhawk a couple weeks ago?
Yeah, I know.
For the 30th anniversary, the very last Shadowhawk story.
I know. I was like, I want to read it, but I'm like, I'm not ready. Not ready yet. I actually might go back and reread some of that just to kind of bring myself up to speed.
I really want to too. Like, this whole year, I've just like, I really want to go back and touch that early Image stuff. I know it's going to be a tough read.
Some of it is going to be a tough read.
Some of it will be a tough read.
Some of it, like, but still, like, some of it does hold up. Like, the Spawn stuff is going to hold up.
Oh yeah, Spawn holds.
I'm kicking Liefeld, but the Liefeld stuff is some of the shit that's not going to hold up as well.
Yeah.
Because I think he was largely writing his stuff too at the beginning, and that was part of the problem, was that he was writing and he was drawing.
They were all writing for pretty much the first time, I think, when they started Image.
Except for Larsen, because Larsen had done comic books prior. Like, he did creator-owned stuff.
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
So Dragon, and Megaton Man, not Megaton Man, Dragon and Vanguard had appeared in other comic books.
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, which was really, really cool, some of the stuff that Dragon did, or that Erik Larsen did with Dragon in that Megaton run, he actually incorporated into the Dragon book.
That's awesome.
Yeah. In fact, he ultimately, Dragon ended up being like everything he thought of doing as a kid with Dragon, because Dragon went through a couple of different versions. So Dragon at one point was a Batman knockoff, where he would literally put on a cape and cowl, and it had the dragon fin. But he ended up incorporating that into the book. Yeah. And then at one point, because Larsen's a big Shazam fan, so at one point, for the second, Dragon's alter ego would put his wrists together and say Fonty, and he would become Dragon at that point.
Yeah.
And he'd have like the Shazam cape. Well, he incorporated that into Mega Man. And then Savage Dragon ended up having getting married and having kids. That was something that he incorporated into the book, and there's just so much shit. But like,
it's a full, it's crazy.
Yeah, but like, it's like same with Invincible, where like you got in on the ground floor, you instantly fell in love with the character, you wanted to see where this went, you fell in love with all the supporting cast, and then eventually it just became your favorite character, and it became one of your favorite books. You know?
I mean, I loved, Wolverine was my guy, but I never felt like I loved reading Wolverine, but I never felt like a familiar connection to the guy, right?
It spoke to you. I feel like it spoke to you, but not in the way that Invincible did.
Yeah, and then Ultimate Spider-Man came out, and that kind of touched a little bit. But there was just something about Invincible, just like the dialogue. I could hear me and my friends, you know.
Yeah.
The challenges in high school, and it really helped that I was just getting out of high school at the same time that I started reading this. So
yeah,
I was Mark Grayson's age, and I remember very vividly saying to myself, "Well, I finally found my Savage Dragon."
And that's what I was just gonna say was like, I remember when you were getting into Invincible, and then you actually said that to me. You were like, this is my Savage Dragon. And you've said that prior, like ever since you've said that. And when you said that to me, I remember thinking like, oh, okay. Because like even with Savage Dragon, like, yeah, I'm a huge Larsen fan. But I mean, really, to tell you like why it was like it became a part of my life. It was just it was like, you woke up, you read Spider-Man, you read, like, for me, I read Batman and Robin, or Robin primarily, and Nightwing, and then Savage Dragon. Like, that was always on my pull list. And
I like, I don't want to say I was envious, but I always felt like the wish that I could have that too. Like, because you talked about Dragon all the time, and how special that comic was to you. You know, you read it through a lot of hard times in your life, and it pulled you through a lot of it.
Exactly.
I never felt that to Wolverine. I never felt it to the X-Men and Generation X, any of those other books I was reading. And so, like, Invincible was just like, fuck, this is it for me.
Comics were always like that for me. Like, comics was always like, it was always an escape, yes. But at the same time, like, because I've said this, like, because, like, what would Superman do, and like the Bourne mentality and stuff like that. But like, it all comes down to just comic books, and comic books is always something that, whenever I'm like really feeling like I'm in a dark place, or like things are hopeless, then I'm like, no, get back to reading comic books. Get back to reading comic books, because it always feels like it resets.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think part of the reason with Dragon was because like there was jobs, and there was like rent and bills and shit like that. Like, and Spider-Man comic books and stuff like that, and Spider-Man almost primarily is one of the few comic books that was like, bills. I gotta fucking pay bills. Savage Dragon, not so much, but like, I don't know. I think Savage Dragon came at the perfect time, because like at that point, this is horrible, but my home life was starting to get worse. So it came in at that perfect time for me to be able to go, okay, all right, but it can still get better, right? Like, and I think that's probably my favorite thing about comics, the medium in general, like comics and all of it encompassing, whether it's video games or cartoons or movies or whatever. It's I feel like it's a constant reminder that things can get better. And yes, this is all fake bullshit, right? Like, it's all fake bullshit. But that feeling that it gives you, like that button that you press that makes you feel good, like the Morrison reference for the button, like, that's a real thing. So it's like, well, why would you make fun of somebody that's reading something or playing something that makes them feel better about their lives?
Exactly.
Why would you do that? And I'm actually like, I remember being happy. Like, when you said, I finally found my Savage Dragon, I remember just being like, good, fucking rights, because like, I don't want to make it sound like you were constantly searching. You were searching for that Savage Dragon, but when you feel that feeling, like when it's a connection, then I feel like it changes you for the better. And I think that's why I don't want to see comic books go away, because I think that's one way to get that feeling. But also,
comics are so fucking special to me. Like, I love movies and cartoons and video games and stuff, but something about comic books, and I think it's that deep tissue that I have to it, where like, my dad read them to me when I was a kid, and I went through all those old comic, but like, it's in me. Like, comics are in me. So like, I was in 2000, 2001. I was working out of town in Dryden.
Yep.
I was buying more comics than I have in my life. I was making a lot of money, so I was able to do that.
You forgot about HeroClix.
Yeah, and well, fucking HeroClix too.
I know you don't want to bring it up too much because that's probably the most embarrassing part of the geekdom right there.
Yeah.
This motherfucker spent a lot of money on HeroClix.
A lot of money on the HeroClix.
Good thing he made most of it back.
I think I gave away half of them. But I mean, I was so fucking depressed in those 2 years.
Oh my God, it was miserable.
I was going to the comic store every weekend when I was home and buying like, I think I had about 40 comics on my pull list at that time, a month.
Yeah, you were buying a disgusting amount.
And I would take those, and every day after work, I would go home and just home, like the hotel, the trailer, the apartment, whatever I was in, and I would just read comic books to get me through the night. And
exactly.
It really fucking helped me, man. It really helped. But
and that's exactly it.
I still never had that Invincible yet, right?
No.
When I quit doing all that shit, that's when I was introduced to Invincible, and I was like, "This is it." I
think that was the perfect time for you, though. I don't think mentally and emotionally you would have been as accepting of Invincible.
I probably would not have been, no. But I understood. You know what it is? I love my father, right?
Yeah.
I did not want to be a plumbing apprentice. I got into it because of him, right?
I know.
So that was another thing with Invincible was Mark's relationship with his father, and his father wanting him to be something that he didn't so
right. Right.
It really just fucking oh man, I got teary eyed just thinking about this shit. Like it really
and I never thought of it like that. You're right. Like because the thing is there's a lot of mirrors because you and your dad have a great relationship.
Yeah.
And you guys have largely had a great relationship almost the entire time that I've known you.
Yeah.
I think the only real times it was tough was when you were like, I don't want to go on the pipeline anymore.
Yeah.
And he was like, well, what are you going to do with your life then? And you're like, I don't really know, but I know I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
You know, and I mean, I can understand, like, from your dad's point of view, none of his kids want to do this.
Yeah.
None of his kids want to go into the very thing that created their livelihood. You know?
Yeah. Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Hey, Dad, no, it's great. Thanks for all this stuff, but fuck your job, man. I don't want to do it. You know?
Yeah.
And you know, of course, we saw that heavy with James. James, we saw it heavy.
Yes.
But see, from an outsider, so to speak, it was always one of those things where, like, at the end of the day, though, like, I knew your parents loved you, and that they just wanted what's best for you.
Yeah.
It wasn't like Mark's dad, where he's just like, no, I want you to be a superhero, but primarily, I also want you to take over the earth with me.
Yeah.
So, you know,
fuck women and kill the rest.
Yeah. But literally only fuck them. Yeah, but what about Mom? Look, man, don't bring her up. That's a tough one. That's a tough one. I love your mom, but I have to say I don't.
Yeah, she's all right.
Yeah, she's cool. She's cool because of you.
Yeah.
Because of you. That's why she's
you.
Cool.
We'll kill her later. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, like I said, I don't know that you would have been ready to have it at that point in time, and I'm glad the stars aligned. You know.
Yeah.
And you were able to pick it up when you did, which is funny too because like not to knock Kirkman at all, but I never really got into The Walking Dead ever.
I got into it later because of Invincible, but I mean, he launched Invincible and Walking Dead the same year. It was everyone was reading one of the two.
I read I want to say maybe the first trade.
Yeah.
First or second trade. And I remember being like, it was good, but I was already like looking ahead and going, but how long does this book really last?
And quite a while.
Because yeah, you know, obviously quite a while, but I was looking at it like, okay, but like, because eventually, like you go, well, at some point the zombies have to die out, period. But like, so because you can only fight zombies for so long, and you can only fight fucking rival gangs of humans for so long, right?
Mm-hmm.
To the point where, like, I don't know, it just wasn't for me. So I just stopped. I even like even the show. I watched the first 2 seasons, and by the end of the second season, I was like, I'm good. I don't. I don't even care.
No,
and it was it. I was just walked away.
I read the first 100 issues of the comic, and it was there was a pattern to it that just continued all the time, and I just got tired of it.
Well, that's where I was like with the trade. By the end of that trade, I had seen the pattern, I think, twice.
Yeah.
And then I was just kind of like, okay, you know what, I'm good. And I don't want to suggest that like patterns in comic books are bad, because comics by their very nature are ruled by patterns.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, like I even said with the most recent Nightwing run, I said my impression was I felt like he was taking a really long time building up Dick Grayson and Bloodhaven and his supporting cast so that he could tear them down, and then the cycle repeats. And that's pretty much comic books right there.
Oh, yeah.
You know, unless you write Spider-Man comic books, and what you do is you start them off at the lowest fucking point. You don't explain why right away, but you piecemeal it every couple of months. And every once in a while, you change his costume, because why not? He's already got another costume change. Did you know that?
Oh, yeah, I know.
Yeah, Spider Goblin. Or I don't know.
Now there's the Gold Goblin.
Fuck, he's got a glider and pumpkin bombs that he takes off, but when he throws them at people, it's disturbing. It actually explodes with a whole bunch of small spiders. Yeah, he threw it at Vulture's face. So Vulture's, there's like actual John Romita Jr. art. It's spiders all in his eyes. It's creepy. It's disturbing.
That's gross.
And Peter Parker decides, you know what? It's a good idea to work with Norman Osborn, because Norman Osborn wants to atone for all the bad things that he's done now that Sin Eater ate all his sins.
Yep. Yeah.
Regardless of the fact that this guy killed Gwen. Oh, I forgot. Knocked her up.
Made some babies.
Made the kids against Spider-Man and Peter Parker.
Yep.
Cloned his parents. Cloned or set the whole cloning thing up in the first place.
Yep.
He was the ultimate mastermind behind it. But yeah, it makes sense that Peter Parker would want to work with him.
And that's why we read Image, folks.
That's also why Chris reads the fucking book every month. I don't know.
Yeah. You were just talking about how you could quit it when you don't like it, but here you just keep going with Amazing.
It's because I want it to get better. Like, that's the thing. I want it to get better.
Got to get better eventually.
Well, that's right, right? Like, it was 5 years of Nick Spencer.
Yeah.
It has to get better, right? But
it has to.
I think right at this point now, I'm gonna leave it, because there's no fucking way I'm gonna like this at all.
Yeah.
There's got to be some drastic changes. So until I hear about drastic changes, I think I'm just gonna knock it off. But the whole point was just patterns, right?
Patterns.
You know, you can really only do so much. The same with books. You can only do so many stories. So there's always going to be patterns or circles or whatever you want to call it. But when you get that book that like speaks to you, fuck, man. That's like the Jim Lee run on Batman.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Like, that just like came in at a perfect time. It was fucking just, and it was awesome. It was awesome, and it struck a chord. The Mark Millar, John Romita Jr. Wolverine run.
Yep.
Was fucking incredible.
Enemy of the State, amazing.
Yeah, like, fuck.
Bendis and Maliev's Daredevil run. Morrison's new X-Men.
Oh, Morrison on pretty much anything. Morrison's Batman.
Yep. And there was a
Although
lot of
that
good
one
shit. There's a lot of
I
good shit.
read all the way through after the fact, but I was checking it out quite religiously.
Mhm.
But fuck.
Yeah. So I mean,
Although his Batman and Robin one, I went all the way through.
yeah, yeah, you
That
did.
one I went all the way through. And
That
his
wasn't too long, right? That was like 50 issues or something.
the Batman and Robin he only did for, was it 16 issues?
Oh, way shorter than I thought. Okay. Or his part of it.
His part, yes, his
Yeah.
part.
Okay.
Because then yeah, it was about, I want to say 14 to 16 issues.
Yeah.
And then of course the status quo was reverted back.
Yeah.
But I also was oh yeah, and Batman Incorporated. I was checking out Batman Incorporated as well. He was doing that one.
Mm-hmm.
But overall, so Image, 30 years. First of all, congratulations, guys. 30 years.
I mean, I have incredible. My favorite book because Robert Kirkman grew up on Image and wanted to be like Erik Larsen.
Exactly.
So
and that was part of the highbrow line, wasn't it?
I think it was.
Because that was one of the few comics that, well, I mean, like he had no issues referencing like Spawn and stuff like that, because Spawn was in his book.
Yeah.
Shadowhawk was in his book.
The Invincible War was a one-issue crossover across the whole Image universe,
which was awesome that they did that. That was absolutely awesome that they did that. But yeah, so like 30 years, some of the
and so many great books too on top.
Talented artists
like Powers came from Image.
Yeah, you know? Powers came from that. Well, we mentioned The Walking Dead. We mentioned
Saga and Paper Girls. Like Brian K. Vaughan's done a lot of awesome shit for Image.
Yep.
Lazarus, I love. You know, Rat Queen. Like Image.
Rat Queens. Oh, so sad.
Man, so many great books from Image over the last few years.
Just like, I mean, it's funny. Like every once in a while, it just pops up, and it's like there's a fucking must-read book.
Yeah. Well, you know,
like even Prophet with their reboot, I wanted to check out because it just sounded bonkers.
Yeah.
And the art was crazy cool. And that was a character that I didn't care for when it first came out.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it was just generic muscle guy by Rob Liefeld. And I was never a huge fan of Rob Liefeld, so it was almost a guarantee that I wasn't checking it out. But even like Supreme, which is obviously Superman knockoff, which was all it was until Alan Moore decided, let me take a crack.
Well, that was the other thing, right? Like, here's Image. They're bringing in guys like Alan Moore and Neil Gaiman. And
like, well, Neil Gaiman, he would pretty much work with anywhere. So that's just one of those. But like Alan Moore is notoriously finicky with who he deals with.
Yeah.
So for him, and then like for them, he basically just said, look, I'll write this book, but let me do whatever I want with it. And then they were like, yeah, okay, cool.
That's what we're all about.
Which is the right answer.
Do your
thing. Absolute right answer is yeah, okay, cool. Do whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, but fuck. And then just like to see these guys doing this shit now. Like Kirkman now is, you know, like he's in the stratosphere now.
He's on, I mean, he's up there with McFarlane, really.
I was just gonna say he's right up there with McFarlane.
I mean, okay, so Spawn had a feature-length film in theaters in 5 years. Marvel had no movies coming out, and here was Spawn on the big screen. Like,
yeah, exactly.
Image was crazy.
You know, and not only they had cartoons, they were doing cartoons. Like Marvel and DC had always kind of done cartoons, but for this company to do cartoons is really interesting. Yeah. And like some of them, like I mentioned the Max cartoon, but the Spawn cartoon.
Spawn had that HBO series.
If you watched the movie, and that was the only introduction you had to the character, I'm sorry. Yeah. I'm really sorry. Okay, unless you liked it, in which case, awesome.
Yeah.
But if you didn't, and I don't blame you if you didn't, because I watched that a couple of times, and I remember the first time I watched it, and it was a weird feeling because I wanted to like it, and there was some cool shit in it, but ultimately I didn't like it. But I felt weird saying that because, you know, like you're supporting an up and coming movie. Like, it's fucking 97 and this movie comes out. Like, that's a short amount of time for a comic book property to go from nobody knows what it is to instantly everybody knows what it is to now it's a movie.
Yeah.
And a fairly big budget movie for that time period. That, you know, like, I think the only other thing that you could.
I mean, the CG hasn't aged well, but that movie was doing things that no movie was doing at the time.
The CGI was never going to age well with that one.
No, but
they did a great use of practical effects, though. John Leguizamo was definitely awesome as the clown.
Perfect as clown. Perfect.
And like, even the way they did him.
Yeah.
Like, now that's just CGI and mocap.
Yeah.
But then that's a fucking suit that he was wearing.
Mm-hmm.
And god damn, I feel bad for him for that one.
Whew. That must have been rough.
But then when he becomes the Violator,
they
use practical effects for some of the Violator shots.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't until he goes to hell and it's Malbolgia. Then it's just like, ugh.
Oh, yeah, my brain melted. I was like, oh,
it's just
so hard
to
see what's going on.
So bad. So brutally bad. Yeah. But like, even Savage Dragon got a Saturday morning cartoon.
Yeah.
Weirdest choice for a Saturday morning cartoon. WildCats made a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm.
Dragon did not, but I mean, it wasn't bad for what it was. Like, it was a Saturday morning cartoon of a very violent cartoon character, but it actually was pretty good. Yeah. I watched a couple episodes. I was like, okay, all right. I mean, what else would you have done? But that Spawn TV show was holy shit.
That was crazy.
And that was a holy shit one.
The fact that like McFarlane introduced every episode like the Crypt Keeper.
That was super cool too. And I remember I've only seen like a handful of episodes. Yeah. But it was on for a while. It was on HBO. It was late night.
I think it was 3 years. 3 seasons.
3 years. Yeah. I want to say it was 3 or 4, something like that. But like, that's incredible. And it was definitely more in line with the comic book than even the, you know. Yeah. And then Max was just Max. I was like, I can't get over how awesome Max was.
Max is deadly. I love the Max.
So fucking good. So fucking good.
Yeah.
And so like, overall, I look back at it and it's crazy that this upstart, like these gang of artists, just were like, this is bullshit. Okay, pay us what we're worth. Give us our due. Oh no, you don't want to do that? Okay, fine. We'll see you later. I guarantee you, everyone at Marvel and DC was like, okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Good luck, boys.
Make your little comic books. Next thing you know, the entire industry changed just like that by one issue. One issue, the entire industry went, wait, what? What the fuck? Yeah. Now you're talking guaranteed contracts. Now you're talking rights. Now you're talking like residuals and like merchandising rights and stuff like that. Stuff that guys weren't getting, you know?
Yeah.
Like, even it wasn't even not too long ago, or even like, there's characters that are out right now that some of the artists and writers are like, yeah, you know, I created them, but you don't know that because Marvel and DC.
Yeah.
You'd never hear about that in Image. Image would be like, I created it, I drew it, I wrote it, I inked it, I did everything on this. Every inch of this book is me. Oh yeah, I'll sign the rights, fucking rights, because I'll get money, I'll get paid. You know. Yeah. Fuck. Absolutely incredible, and I love it. I love it.
Me too. Me too. I can't believe 30 years flew by like that. But
you know what I love too is it goes back to what I'm saying. It's like, I don't ever want to see a point in time where there's no comic books, because comic books bring people in, you know, and there's always going to be people that will look at it and they'll go, huh, this feels good.
Yeah.
I like this, you know? And then from there, you got them saying, okay, oh, there's a movie coming out. I'm going to go see that movie. Or I'm going to see that cartoon.
Yeah.
I'm going to buy that shirt. I'm going to play that video game, you know? And it's just more of this thing that makes you feel good. Because fuck, man, the world isn't getting any better, unfortunately. So we need all that good that we can get. We need all that good.
Yep.
You know? You're into baseball? Great. If it makes you feel great, awesome. You're into wrestling? Also awesome. If it makes you feel great. I don't care what it is. It's whatever it is. And I want to see more of it. And then, and it's unfortunate that we still, it's unfortunate that comic book fans are largely toxic too. I shouldn't say largely. The loudest ones are the most toxic. And it pisses me off that there's a YouTuber, Thinking Critically. I didn't realize this, but I listened to some of the stuff. Eventually it started coming out like he has a problem with woke comic books. His problem with Nightwing's run is that the writer, Tom Taylor, is like putting his own personal politics into the comic book and is doing things, having Nightwing do things that Nightwing wouldn't normally do. For instance, Nightwing being a billionaire and then using that money to create an infrastructure to help poor people get off the ground is apparently something Nightwing would never do, because Nightwing is really, really smart, so he would know that you can't just throw money at a problem.
He knows that Nightwing is a fictional character, right? Created
but also,
by
my question would be
writers.
So then do we just do nothing then?
Yeah.
So we do nothing? We just say, okay, well, they're poor people. Why don't they just pull up their bootstraps? Because
yeah.
And so I actually stopped following. Him prior to that because it was a lot of anytime it was anything like, if it wasn't your standard superhero shit, there was a problem. There was a problem with what the hell was it? New Warriors with their trans character. There was anything that had to do with trans, there was a problem, or gay or lesbian. It was all just like, and it was just like, well, I don't know about you, but these people are out there.
Yeah.
Okay.
You don't have to read that book.
I know about you. Okay. I know about you and I know about your area, but these people are out there. And here's the biggest thing. These are people. Okay. I don't care about how you feel about one or two genders or whatever the case may be. They're people.
Mm-hmm.
They should be treated like people. And you know what? If they can read a comic book that has a character that they identify with, that makes them feel like they have a place in this world, what's wrong with that? Okay? Yep. So I don't know, just do this thing where it's not for you, then don't look at it and shut your fucking mouth. Or at the very least, sit there and say, look, this comic book has these characters, and I don't agree with any of it. It is clearly not a book for me.
Yeah.
But check it out. You might like it. Why not do it like that?
Yeah.
And the other part that really threw me, because I Googled the guy, right? Because I was just like, is he really like a right-leaning? Because I don't want to make it seem like if you lean right, you're a terrible person. I don't. First thing on his Twitter handle, Christian. As soon as I saw that, I was like, yeah, okay. That's the first thing.
Yeah. That's the first thing you have to know about me. First thing.
I bet you, because the worst part is those types always tend to be the ones that are the most oppressive.
Yeah.
But anyway, so like I said, the more comics that are out there, the better the industry as a whole. And like I said, the more people that get to press that button that make them feel human, I guess you could say. Because when you feel good, you feel alive, you feel human, you feel like, fuck, I can do everything. I can do anything,
Yeah.
It's when all that other shit comes in and then you feel like an outsider or you feel like a loser or whatever the case may be. Mm-hmm. Open up a comic book. Maybe you won't feel so bad. That's my end message. Thank you, Image. Buddy. Thank you, Image, for introducing me to Savage Dragon. Thank you, Image, for enriching my life. No, I don't want to say for the last 30 years because I haven't been reading it for the last 30 years, but you've definitely made my life better, more fuller. So thank you for that. And I say Image as a whole because I don't want to pick anyone in particular. Obviously, Erik Larsen, but Image as a whole, because if it wasn't for Image, period, there'd be no Savage Dragon, or at least not
Right.
in this capacity. So,
Yep.
so thank you.
Exactly.
That's me saying thanks to you.
Image has what they've done to the comic industry is just I can never say how much I appreciate it. There is more comic labels than ever right now. Independent publishers, writers, artists who could never have been seen before without Image doing what they did and saying,
exactly,
fuck this. You know,
exactly.
You have a voice, you have ideas, they're yours, they're no one else's.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. You want to make movies off the characters that you created, you're going to make money off those movies that you created.
Yes.
Because that's, instead of watching your character on the big screen and go, oh yeah, that's a residual.
Nothing pisses me off more during the end of an MCU film than saying based on the Marvel comics.
Yeah. Instead of based on the characters created by.
Yeah. Okay, so all the characters in the movie were probably created by 100 different people, but the guy that the movie is based on, say Thor, it shouldn't say based on the Marvel comics.
Yeah. But even like we talked about at the beginning, like how hard it was for guys to get recognized for their contributions. Like Joe Simon and Joel Shuster, they were kids when they created Superman, so they weren't savvy. So when they signed over the rights, they looked at it like, yeah, we'll get a nice payday for that. And then when it fucking took off, when Superman became this smash, like conglomerate hit, like worldwide, like, and I say worldwide because even to this day, you could never read a Superman comic book in your entire life, but you see that symbol, you go, oh, Superman.
Yeah. Everybody knows.
Spider-Man, Batman, those are like the world over. Yes, now Marvel has put like, Thor and Iron Man and Captain America there, but those three, Spider-Man, Batman, and Superman, the world over.
Yep. 100%.
And like never read the book and still know, oh, that's Spider-Man.
Yep.
Yeah. And it's crazy to think like they actually had to sue and they had to fight just so that it could be created by Shuster and Siegel.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, did I tell you the correct pronunciation of Steven Seagal's name?
No.
It's actually Siegel.
Is it Siegel?
Yeah. So from here on out, you will never ever hear me refer to it as the former pronunciation. I'm always going to refer to it as Siegel. And the reason why he chose that was because it sounded cooler than Siegel. I went down a little bit of a anti-Steven Seagal rabbit hole because I didn't know enough about Steven Seagal to make me hate him. He's literally one of the worst. I don't want to say human. It's one of the worst things that's ever been created on this earth. yeah, but it's actually pronounced Siegel.
Well, that is a funny fact to know.
Honestly,
Thank you for letting me know.
I hope that one day I get to bump into that person and I get to go, oh, hey, Steven Seagal. And just watch his face go from like probably mildly annoyed because he probably doesn't want to talk to anyone to like just anger. He'd probably fucking fuck me up too.
Oh, he probably would with his super quick hands.
Not anymore. I would just jog away from him. I wouldn't even run. Just a light jog.
Just a light jog. Bye, Siegel.
Or maybe even just a fast pace. Maybe I'll just walk quickly.
I'd flap my wings. Yeah.
Anyway. So, yeah, like I said, Image, 30 years. Thank you for everything. Geek Pantsers, 310. Thank you for everything.
Really appreciate it.
Thank you for everything.
Chris, thank you for everything. Thank you for 37 years of being crazy. My best friend. My fucking
absolutely
brother.
Crazy. We had fuller hair back then.
They were the
I
good
always had a high
days.
forehead. I always did have a high forehead, but I didn't have any of these balding
Yes,
spatches.
your forehead has grown higher.
Yeah, but not by much.
Meanwhile, what is
Oh yeah,
going on here?
yeah. You've got like an interesting meet in the middle situation.
Yeah, it's nice. It's a little party in here.
It's got to be aggravating though, because your dad has a fucking full head of hair.
Oh yeah. Apparently, it comes from the mother's side. So thank you to my mother's uncles.
Yeah, well.
Oh
Anyway,
well.
as always, we appreciate every single one of you followers. We love that you check us out on
Facebook, Twitter,
YouTube,
Instagram,
Twitter, Instagram,
Google Podcast,
yeah,
SoundCloud,
Apple Podcast.
boom, and geekpantsmedia.com.
There it is.
That's right. We go all out here. We have a .com.
That's right. That's right. We're one of those cool kids getting in on the ground floor with a website.
Fucking right.
That's it, guys.
That was it. Yeah, that was.
Yeah, like you
for
gotta.
Cool kids. That's it. That's all you gotta know. Okay.
You gotta leave.
Yeah, get the fuck out. We'll talk about Image in another 30 years.
Or until the next Image property becomes huge, because season 2 of Invincible is around the corner.
Yes, it's coming.
Walking
Dead's got another 100 spin-offs.
Oh, The Boys is Image too.
No, Boys is Dynamite.
That's right. That's an offshoot. No, wait, Dynamite is
Dynamite is Dynamite.
That's right. Dynamite's his own thing.
Yeah,
because that's right. Yeah, because Top Cow did become Top Cow Comics.
Yes, Top Cow is their own thing.
That's right.
Top Cow gave us Michael Turner, rest in peace. Maybe we'll talk about the Jamie Foxx Spawn movie when it comes out, directed by Todd McFarlane.
Wait, what? He's the most recent actor attached to Spawn?
Oh, he's been attached to it for 3-4 years now.
Get that shit moving. Get that shit moving, because
Fox he's attached.
Isn't getting any younger.
He's 100% attached.
But he's not getting any younger. And honestly, I think like now's the time to get Spawn out.
Yeah.
Get it out now before the superhero shit dies.
It's because Todd wants to direct it himself.
Yeah, pull your head out of your ass, man. Just be a creative consultant.
You should just write and produce and just get someone in there and get it out.
I wouldn't even say write. I'd get a couple of script writers in there, but like come up with a story, yes, but have someone actually write the script, and then just be a creative consultant.
Yeah.
Pull your head out of your ass, because otherwise it could be garbage like Jupiter's Legacy, which I actually watched 2 episodes of. That's it though. I stopped after 2. And I removed it from continue watching.
You made it 2 further than I did.
And I removed it from my list, so I will never have any sort of pop-up that says, "Hey, remember me?"
We're done with this one.
No. It's it's so bad. It's like they should have just did fucking frame for frame, shot for shot, like 300 style, just remake the whole show from the comic book. Changes, like whatever change you had to do because of technology or whatever the case may be, do that. But then other than that, just that's
too bad.
Oh man. That's not a bummer in the sense that like if it was really good, they wouldn't have been canceled 3 days after it was released. Or it was quick. Was it like a week or two?
It wasn't even a week. No. It was canceled. I was like, what the fuck? I don't even think anyone's had time to watch the whole show yet.
Well, yeah, because now the idea is if the streaming isn't massive the first week, or first weekend, then Netflix goes, yeah, you're done.
Right.
Which, but again, you're right. Like, I'm not going to watch like 8 episodes or whatever the fucking runtime was. Over a weekend, especially like on that. Like that was one of those properties where I was like, that's not the right move. That's not the right move. You should have done something else.
Yeah,
like Nemesis. I think Nemesis probably would have been a better move to do. And even that wasn't that great.
Super Crooks was done. I haven't watched that yet.
Yeah, me neither. But I also that was another one where I was like,
the only one I was really excited for was the Magic Order, and they canceled that before it started. So I'm really happy that Netflix bought Miller World
because of Jupiter's Legacy. Because you know what, and the worst part about the whole thing is that it's actually like it's legit not that good.
Yeah.
Like, so it's not one of those where, you know, like it's not Marvel and it's not DC, so it's immediately garbage. It's not one of those deals at all. It's actually not really good, period. And it's disappointing because like the cast is good. You know what I mean? Like we're all relatively good actors and actresses and stuff like that. Visually, they looked pretty good. Like a lot of them looked like they did in the comic books, but the execution was like, if I was Mark Millar, I almost would have been. I almost feel like if I was Mark Millar, I probably would have said more. Like I probably said, "Hey, well, I noticed you guys are doing this. Could we try to get this more to this? Like maybe try to get a little bit more of a compromise, unless that's exactly what this was, because I have no idea, right? Like I have no knowledge as to how it went about. I just know that I didn't like it, and obviously very few people did.
Yep.
You know, because I don't. Well, fuck, it's been out for what, over a year, and I
well over a year.
I just checked it out recently, like within the last month, and it was literally just like, is it really that bad? Yeah, it is. It is that bad. It is. You know.
And with that,
now we gotta go.
Now we go.
Now we gotta go.
Cool kids.
Always cool kids. Geek Pantsers for life.